Like a lot of little kids growing up, I liked to make toys out of things that were not toys. For example, I turned my grandparents' VCR into a Game Boy and destroyed it in the process. I made my mom's antique sewing machine an Etch-a-Sketch, carving my name into its old, beautiful oak hood. I decided to treat our kitchen cabinets like a jungle gym, which led to me being taken to the emergency room 3 times for stitches for head wounds before the age of 5. I was the reason my family couldn't have nice things. Because of this, my parents instituted a policy known as mic proofing, which has that sort of unique ring of parental guardianship and also family guilt that Catholics have really mastered over the past few centuries. It really essentially amounted to them trying to keep anything valuable away from my reach, keeping me off of high surfaces, and at all costs getting me out of the house. And this policy was in full effect when my parents moved into their brand new home in a subdivision outside of San Antonio when I was 6. Now, this whole neighborhood was pretty new, so there weren't any other houses on our street, save for one at the end of the street, which is where BJ lived. BJ was twice my age. He was an 11-year-old, and he had this sort of dirty blonde hair, and he was kind of tubby. He wore a lot of tie-dye, and he talked kind of like Beavis from Beavis and Butthead, but with a lisp. And one day he knocked on our door, and my mom answered, and he said, "Hi, would your son want to come out and play sometime?" Now, my mom at this point had 2 options. One, watch over me and everything else she held dear in our house. Or 2, leave me in the custody of an 11-year-old she had never met. And she chose the latter. Mic proofing. Just to get me out of the house, I was sent off with BJ. And I was like, BJ, we could play basketball, we could play video games, we could go exploring in the creeks. And BJ's like, no, let's go to the construction sites. Now, I should explain. In San Antonio, it gets so hot during the middle of the day that most of the construction work starts in the morning. Guys show up around 6 a.m., they work till about 11, and then they leave and come back in the mid-afternoon, which meant these places were completely left open to 2 young, curious men like BJ and I. BJ walks me over to one of the construction sites, and I see a smile come across his face as he looks at a big box. And he makes a beeline for it, and I follow him over there, and as he looks down inside this box, there's a pile of brand new floodlights. And I see a little glimmer of like teenage angst come into BJ's 11-year-old eye. To be fair to BJ, he was an 11-year-old in middle school with the name BJ. He had lots to be mad about. So he reaches down into this box and he pulls out this brand new floodlight and he lifts it above his head and he smashes it on the ground and he starts cackling like maniacally, like ha 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 ha, and he picks up another one and he hands it to me and he says, "Smash it." Now, I am 6, I don't have an angry bone in my body, but I just watched a boy turn a perfectly good light bulb into, freaking light bright on the ground, and no one got mad at him. There was no BJ proofing out here, which coincidentally is also the name of a policy many Catholic families have. So I take the light bulb in my hand, and I'm so little that the bulb extends beyond my fingers, and I lift it above my head, and I toss it on the ground, and it explodes, and I'm thrilled, and I just start laughing too, and everything is great, because no one got mad at me. And I go home, and I'm like, "Mom, I made a friend." And she's like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "Built forts." Because I knew I did something wrong, but I didn't want her to know, because now I wasn't the reason we couldn't have nice things anymore. I was the reason other people couldn't have nice things anymore. And that's how BJ and I spent the summer. Because at home, if I decided to use my Ninja Turtle action figures by throwing them off our 2nd floor so they could skydive, I would get in trouble for damaging the wood floors. But with BJ, we could toss terracotta, stuff off the 2nd floor of somebody's house and smash them all up, and nobody cared. At home, understandably, my father's tools were completely off limits. But if I found a way to steal an old circular saw, BJ and I could spend the afternoon cutting holes in unused drywall. It was great. No one got in trouble, and somehow, despite our efforts, these houses kept getting built and kept getting finished. BJ and I were standing at one of our favorite, construction sites 2 doors down from my place, and there it was glaring at us. This oak front door, this beautiful finished door. because we figured out once the nice door went on the house, they were pretty much done outside. All the work was going to go on inside. It was going to be wiring and plumbing, and that meant workers weren't going to leave, and that meant we couldn't play there anymore. I remember BJ looking at it like, geez, I really like that place. And I was like, yeah, we got to do something about that. And he's like, what do you mean? It was too late. I stormed off. I went back to my little sandbox at home, and I grabbed my little plastic shovel. You know those ones that have like the rings on them at the end? And I walked back to the house that BJ was still standing at, and I opened the front door to the porta potty out front. In the hot sort of Texas summer, I could smell the like hot plastic and Lysol, and there was light pouring through the air vents up top, and I looked down into that toilet hole. And I could see that swirl of blue chemicals and brown filth. And I took my shovel in hand, and I reached down into that dark hole. And my tiny little 6-year-old arm couldn't reach. So I went up on my tippy toes, and I braced myself on the toilet seat, and I reached further down into this hole. When I emerged from that porta potty, a 6-year-old holding a tiny plastic shovel with a giant dump on it. The look on BJ's face was a mixture of horror and admiration. And as if I were in the worst egg-on-spoon race at a summer camp you'd never send your children to, I marched across the front yard and I flung shit all over that brand new, beautiful door, thinking, that'll show them, taking away my playground. And then I went back to the porta potty, and I took another scoop, and I was like, this is my territory, as if, for some reason, in my little 6-year-old brain, this neighborhood was like West Side Story, but instead of like dancing with Fosse, I was just flinging feces. When I was finished, this front door was completely covered in shit, and BJ was long gone. BJ and I never hung out again, and despite my intimidation tactics, a new family moved in to that beautiful new home, which is a good thing, because they had a kid who was my age, and he liked to play video games and basketball and explore in creeks. And he became my best friend, which is weird, because now as a 30-year-old adult, I'm still trying to mic-proof my life. The clothes I wear are garbage. I don't want to ruin the nice stuff that my family and friends buy me, hoping that one day I'll get a sense of like appreciation for how I look. And you know, I try to drink only out of plastic cups when I'm home because I don't want to break the lovely glasses my wife and I got at our wedding. And when we became, last summer, very proud new home buyers, just like my parents had in San Antonio, the first thing I did was install a keypad on our front door so that, one, no ne'er-do-wells could break in and cover it in shit. And two, because I forget my keys so much, I don't want to ruin the place breaking into it. Mic-proofing now is my way to ensure that I'm not the reason that I don't have nice things anymore. I'm the reason I do. Thanks.